Scenario 1. Question. Another driver who ran a stop sign strikes your driver. Your driver is not cited. The other driver is taken to the hospital, where he later dies. Answer. Yes, a Department of Transportation post-accident test should be given. If the other driver dies within 8 hours of accident, both tests are given. If the other driver dies within 8 to 32 hours of accident, only drug, no alcohol test is given. If the other driver dies more than 32 hours of accident, no test is given. Scenario 2. A car runs a red light and hits your driver. Both vehicles are damaged and must be towed. Nobody is injured. Answer. No. A test is not required because of a moving traffic violation was not given to your driver. It should be mentioned at this point there are two trains of thought on this issue. First, some employers prefer to conduct a test under their local policy even if it is not required by the Department of Transportation, saying, "We want to make sure drugs or alcohol was not related to the accident, and our driver wasn't on drugs." Second, if you do decide to test when not required by the Department of Transportation, and your driver does test positive for drugs or alcohol, you have just proven the case against you and your driver. It's your choice. Scenario 3. Question. Your driver runs a red light and is hit by another vehicle. Your driver receives a moving violation citation, and your driver's vehicle must be towed. Answer. Yes. A Department of Transportation post-accident test should be given because your driver received a moving traffic violation, and the vehicle involved in the accident had to be towed from the scene. It is very important to follow the time frame in any circumstance. Breath alcohol and saliva are the only Department of Transportation authorized forms of alcohol test. Alcohol tests must be confirmed no sooner than 15 minutes and no later than 30 minutes with an approved evidential breath testing device that prints out the test results. Saliva tests are not approved for confirmations. Reasonable cause. This should be the strongest part of the testing procedure, but it isn't, due to the reluctance of supervisors to make a judgment call as to whether a test should be given. Oftentimes, this is an emotional decision. There are guidelines for reasonable cause testing. Decision must be comprised of clearly stated actions, behaviors, or appearance. Decision to test must be made by a trained supervisor who, after the course is completed, will be a trained supervisor. Made only in on-the-spot situations, never by someone else's observation. Made only prior to, during, or immediately following driving for alcohol. For instance, if you see Joe getting sauced at the local bar Sunday night, you cannot test him when he walks in at 7 a.m. in the morning. You can watch him Sunday night and keep an eye on him Monday morning when he comes into work. If you suspect he is impaired, you may then test him on reasonable cause. Testing should be conducted within 2 hours if possible. If you think Joe is impaired, do not wait for his lunch break. Test him immediately. Under no circumstance should you allow the employee to drive himself or herself to the collection site. Under company policy, testing for drug and alcohol should be considered. Random. Selection process must be truly random by an approved computer program or by random number table. No more pulling names out of a hat. Designed to be a deterrent. Testing should be unannounced to employee. Once notified, the employee must immediately report to the collection site and cannot leave until the employee's testing has been completed. Test for both drugs and alcohol. Drugs at 50% annually. Alcohol at 10% annually. Example, 50 regulated employees in your company. You must test a minimum of 25 for drugs and 5 for alcohol. Return to duty. Returns to duty tests are required if an employee tests positive for a drug or alcohol and wishes to return to a safety-sensitive function. If the employer wishes to retain the employee in the present position, then the employee must be evaluated by a substance abuse professional, an SAP. Provide a negative test result prior to returning to work. And follow a stringent testing regimen in the follow-up tests. Follow-up. Testing is determined by the SAP, the substance abuse professional, at a minimum of 6 tests the first year, which may be increased to as many tests as required per year, and up to 60 months, 5 years, for drugs and alcohol. If the employer decides not to retain the employee, the employer is only required to give a referral of a local SAP. DOT requires not only a company policy, but also a set of procedures. The set of procedures will detail the 5 testing situations along with the responsibility of the individuals. They should be set up in a cookbook type of format so that the supervisor knows exactly what needs to happen. Drug and alcohol testing situations review. Question 1. How many testing situations are required under the DOT regulations? Answer: 6. Question 2. What are the testing situations under the DOT regulations? Answer: pre-employment, post-accident, reasonable cause, random, return to duty, follow-up. Question 3. What are the conditions that must exist before a post-accident test is required by the DOT? Answer: human fatality, or vehicle towed and moving violation citation, or medical attention away from the scene of the accident and moving violation citation. Question 4. Who can order a reasonable cause test? Answer: only a trained supervisor. Question 5. What is the random testing rates for drugs and alcohol under FHWA? Answer: drugs, 50% annually. Alcohol, 10% annually. General information on alcohol. Alcohol is a natural byproduct of the fermentation of yeast and sugars. Ethyl alcohol is the form of alcohol used in beverages. Alcohol is the most abused drug throughout the world. It has been around since the beginning of time. There are reports that ancient Egyptians drank alcohol. Low levels of alcohol have a mild tranquilizer effect on most people, and although a sedative, it can temporarily act as a stimulant. Higher blood alcohol level depresses the brain activity. The effects of alcohol to each individual vary and are dependent on many different factors. Factors that play into effects of alcohol are weight, type of alcohol, how fast it is consumed, level of alcohol in drink, if person has eaten or not, mood of the individual. There is no way to sober up except for time. Giving a drunk coffee and shower only makes for a wet, wired drunk. Most people, if they drink too much, often wake up with a hangover. Some indications are headache, fatigue, nausea, and anxiety. The current legal blood alcohol content is 0.080. However, most police officers say on the average DUI stop, the blood alcohol level is usually around 0.175. Beverage alcohol review. Question 1. What are the two contributing factors that affect the human body? Answer: weight and type of alcohol. Question 2. What is the current legal blood alcohol level under state law? Answer: 0.08%. An alcohol test may consist of only two methods under the DOT regulations: evidential breath test or saliva test. A saliva test method collects saliva from the mouth. Then it is processed in a chemical reaction. An evidential breath tester, or EBT, is a machine that, when blown into, registers the amount of alcohol in the human lungs. There is a two-part test to the breath alcohol test: the initial screen and the confirmation test. Alcohol testing process. The donor reports to the collection site and provides a photo ID. The breath test is documented on a federal form called a breath alcohol testing form. Step 1 is completed by the breath alcohol technician, or BAT, or saliva test technician, STT. Step 2 is completed by the employee. Failure to complete this step constitutes a refusal to be tested. Step 3 is completed by the breath alcohol technician, or BAT, or saliva test technician, or STT. Step 4 is completed by the employee if a confirmation test is necessary. Failure to complete this step does not constitute a refusal to be tested, but the BAT will make note in the remarks stating the employee's refusal. If the test resulted in a reading of 0.019 or less, then the result is considered negative. However, if the test records levels of 0.02 or above, a confirmation test will be required. The donor will be asked to wait 15 to 30 minutes. This is beneficial for the employee as it allows all mouth alcohol to dissipate, at which time a second test is given as the confirmation test. Regardless of the confirmation test results, this will be the final test result. At the completion, the collector will then notify the employer of the results. There is no MRO in alcohol testing unless the employee cannot provide an adequate amount of breath for the test. Key alcohol test results. 0.00 to 0.019 is considered a negative. 0.02 to 0.039 is considered a positive and requires a mandatory 24-hour removal from service. If removed from service, the employee does not have to go home, but they are not allowed to drive. 0.04 or higher is considered a positive and a mandatory referral to a SAP, or one cannot return to a safety-sensitive function. If the level is higher than 0.04, it is considered in violation of Department of Transportation regulations. Disciplinary action must be taken, and an evaluation by the SAP must take place before the employee can return to service. Limitations. The only exception to this is with a post-accident situation. Alcohol tests should be given for up to 8 hours after the accident has been reported. In the case of an accident, the employees must make themselves available for testing and not to drink until after the test has been administered. DOT has a prohibition of any form of alcohol in a vehicle that is not part of a manifested shipment, open or not. Again, 0.019 or less is a negative test. There is prohibition for a minimum of 4 hours prior to performing a safety-sensitive function under FMCA. Applies to on-call personnel as well. Alcohol Test Review. Question 1. What type of alcohol testing methods are approved by the DOT? Answer: breath or saliva. Question 2. What are the 3 groups of alcohol test results? Answer: negative 0.00 to 0.019. 24 hours off, 0.02 to 0.039. And positive, 0.04 or above. Question 3. When can an alcohol test be given to an employee? Answer: only immediately before, during, or immediately after performing a safety-sensitive function. Question 4. What will happen if the employee will not fill out Step 2 of the alcohol testing form? Answer: failure to complete Step 2 of the alcohol testing form constitutes a refusal to be tested. Physical indicators. Keep in mind that just because one of these signs is present, it does not mean someone is abusing drugs or alcohol. There may be a serious medical problem. Signs of abuse are: eyes, bloodshot, extremely dilated or constricted. It's been said that the eyes are the windows to the soul. Many times you can tell by the eyes if someone is abusing. Nose, runny, sniffling, frequent nosebleeds. Stimulants often cause the nasal membrane to dry out due to snorting. Mouth, dry. Detect the smell of beverage alcohol. There was a case in Florida for DUI. The arresting officer testified the probable cause as an odor of alcohol on the driver's breath. The case was overturned because ethyl alcohol does not have an odor. Extra long pinky fingernail. This makes a convenient scoop without having to worry about paraphernalia. Loss of weight or appetite. It does not matter if it is depressants or stimulants. They both affect the hypothalamus, which controls appetite in the brain. The only drug that increases the appetite is marijuana. It is well known that marijuana causes hunger or munchies. Unusually bad breath and/or excessive perspiration. Bad breath and excessive perspiration are characteristic of stimulants use. Chronic health problems. The body sees drugs as toxins. It takes a great deal of work to try to remove them. Chronic use will lead to serious health problems. Altered reactions, slow reaction times, poor depth perception, and the inability to judge time. Signs and symptoms of abuse review. Question 1. Unusual physical behavior is always a good indicator of substance abuse. True or false? Answer: false. The employee could have a medical problem. Question 2. Alcohol has a distinct odor. True or false? Answer: false. Ethyl alcohol does not have an odor. Question 3. Name 3 physical indicators to watch for as signs of substance abuse. Answer: eyes, mouth, extra long pinky fingernail, loss of weight or appetite, unusually bad breath and/or excessive perspiration, chronic health problems, altered reaction. Mood swings. You observe a cyclical in a short time interval. They are characteristically up, then down. This does not mean that a person comes in one day happy and friendly and irritable the next. This consists of mood swings that happen periodically during a day. In other words, Joe comes in happy and up in the morning. By lunch, he's grouchy and irritable. By the time lunch is over, he is back to being happy again. This usually indicates a drug user has gotten the fix needed. Negative changes in personality. Withdrawal. Emotional instability. Paranoia. Irritability. Very sensitive. Verbally or physically abusive. Behavior that is out of context or unpredictable. Deterioration of work performance. Lowered productivity. Increase in smoking. Either the drug is put into what looks to be a regular cigarette, or it becomes a surrogate for the drug they can't have at the time. Wearing long-sleeved shirts at inappropriate times. If it is hot outside, they could be trying to hide their tracks, or they could just sunburn easily. Must be careful not to jump to conclusions. Erratic or repetitive speech patterns. A very fast talker starts talking slowly, or vice versa. Emotional instability, outburst, paranoia. A usually stable person becomes prone to fits of crying or becomes belligerent. Social or family problems. Once a very personable, friendly person becomes a loner or starts fights or arguments with coworkers. Constant financial problems. May start asking for advances on check, asking for loans from the company or other employees, or stealing. Frequent absences from their workstation. Could be wasting company time, hanging out at the water cooler, or getting their hit, or buying and selling drugs. Behavioral indicators review. Question 1. What are the 3 changes you should watch for in an employee's behavior? Answer: mood swings, negative personality changes, and work performance deterioration. Question 2. Name 3 things an employee may do that would alert you. Answer. Increase in smoking. Wearing long-sleeved shirts at inappropriate times. Erratic or repetitive speech patterns. Emotional instability, outbursts, paranoia. Social or family problems. Constant financial problems. Or frequent absences from their workstation.